comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. Today I was thinking about when I was in Varanasi in India, the place where they cremate all the bodies. People go on religious pilgrimages there to die on the banks of the Ganga. And I just remember when I was there, I watched a body burn for a couple of hours. And I remember while I was watching it burn, I was thinking to myself, I'm never going to forget this person's face. It's going to be seared in my brain forever. Watching a body burn for that long, watching a body burn in general, I thought it was going to sear in my brain forever. And today I was thinking about it. I was going back in my memory to see how much I remembered of the actual scene. And I can't remember too much. I remember where I was standing. I was standing against like a wooden fence, but I can't remember too much about the body. I remember it took fucking forever for the skin to catch fire, but I can't remember if it was a guy or a girl or anything. I can't remember too many details of standing there for 2 hours watching a dead body burn. But I do remember the very first time I ever saw a dead body. I remember it clear as fucking day. So I'm going to tell you that story. So when I was a kid, this is like primary school, grade 4, 5, 6, I had a really good friend. He probably was my best friend at the time. His name was Jeremy. I'm not going to say his last name. He does not need to be out in the fucking public. And he was a really fucked up unit. His whole family were. He had 2 younger brothers and an older sister, and they were all fucked. There was something going on with them all. The older sister was a hardcore goth. The youngest kid, he was like a super intelligent dude. They were all super smart. Every single one of them was super smart. They were just all completely fucked. They lived in this housing commission house in Oakley, and we would go over there all the time because his mum and my mum were friends. They would drink wine together, and the kids would just run an absolute fucking muck. Like, I really mean we would run amok. This is like when we were like 8, 9, 10, that sort of shit. Real young. My mate Jeremy, he started smoking cigarettes in the house with his mum when he was 9 years old. 9 or 10. It was grade 5. We'd go over there and he'd be in the room just darting. And if he ran out of darts, his mum would just fling him a few. This is the kind of family I'm talking about. And the other thing Jeremy started doing, I think it was in like grade 5 or 6, he started drinking methylated spirits in front of me. He's like, it gets you drunk, man. And so he would have a little bottle of fucking methylated spirits and he would scull like half a bottle and I'd be like, I'd be watching it. I'd be encouraging all this as well. It was just so amazing to my little fucking mind that this cunt was drinking poison and smoking darts in his house. I loved hanging around there just to watch this fucking train wreck. Like, it was a full-on fucking train wreck, this family. Like, we would go over, my mum, my brother, and me, to hang out for like a day or two. And on the drive back, after a couple of days with them, we were like, fuck, they're fucked. Like, it made our family feel normal. So in hindsight, there was something seriously going on with that family. I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was kind of exciting. And they were loose, and I liked loose people even back then. So anyway, the kids lived with their mum. And the dad wasn't really around. I met him like once or twice. And he was like a sort of like half posh, red wine drinking, big word talking, fucking clean cut sort of looking guy. But I didn't know him at all. I had nothing to do with him. I only saw him like twice. So we leave primary school and we go to high school. And Jeremy ends up going to the same high school as me. But we sort of drift apart. As soon as high school starts, we drift apart. We were drifting apart before that, to be honest with you. His other best mate, or his best mate, was a fucking nerd, and I didn't have much time for that nerd, and they would hang out all the time, and I wouldn't get invited, thank God. So I just started hanging out with other people anyway. So one day in year 7, this was early year 7, so I'm probably like 11 or 12. So I get home from school one day, early in year 7, and mum's at home. And she's sitting there on the couch and she's smoking a dart. And I walk in and she's like, come in, sit down. So I'm like, yeah, what's up? And she's like, Jeremy's dad died yesterday. And I'm like, really? How did he die? And she's like, he committed suicide. And I'm like, what's that? She's like, he killed himself. I'm like, fuck. You can do that? You can kill yourself? How did he kill himself? And she's like, he suffocated himself in the garage. And I'm like, how did he do that? And she's like, he ran a hose into the window of his car and he got in the car and he turned the engine on. And I didn't even understand how you could kill yourself doing that. It didn't even make sense to me. So I'm just like, yeah, okay. Does that kill you, does it? And she's like, yeah. I'm still trying to process the idea, the brand new idea that you can actually just kill yourself. Like that's an option. And I couldn't work out why anyone would want to do that. So I go to my mum, why did he kill himself? And she takes a big drag of the cigarette and she goes, he was a pedophile. And I'm like, what's a pedophile? And she takes another long drag of the cigarette and she goes, he fucks kids. He fucks kids. And I'm like, people fuck kids? Hold on a second. People can kill themselves and they can fuck kids. People fuck kids? This is probably news I should have known earlier. So I'm like, what happened? And she's like, oh, I shouldn't tell you. Like after she told me the suicide part and the pedophile thing, she's like, nah. I shouldn't really tell you this. Good mothering. So she goes, he got caught molesting some girl and he didn't want to go to jail, so he killed himself. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is a lot to fucking process. So anyway, Mum tells me about that. She says, don't say anything to Jeremy and the other kids because I don't think they know. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry. I can barely process it. So anyway, this is a few days later. We're at school and it's lunchtime. And a teacher comes up to me with Jeremy. And they're like, you're meant to be going with Jeremy to Jeremy's dad's funeral. And I hadn't been told anything about this. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Anything to get out of fucking school. I don't give a shit. Let's do it. Like I was excited as fuck. So me, Jeremy, and this teacher go down to the funeral. And I remember exactly where the funeral parlour was. It was on the corner of Warrigal Road and Argus Street in Cheltenham. I think it's like Kingston Funerals now, but it was like Le Funeral or something back in the day. I walked past it every day on my way to school for 5 fucking years. It was my shortcut going through that funeral parlour. So I was like a little bit excited to go inside. I'm like, finally, after taking the shortcut through this funeral parlour 500,000 fucking times, I finally get to see what's inside. So I'm amped. Jeremy, he wasn't as excited as I was. So we get into the funeral parlour. The teacher comes with us. And I just remember the overwhelming emotion I felt was, this is so fucking sweet. I don't have to go to the rest of the day of school. This is the best. I hope more people I know die. So we get in there and it's an open casket. And everyone's walking up to the casket, looking at it, walking away. And I didn't totally understand what was going on. I was just very, very happy to be out of school. So I just walk up to the casket. I didn't really know there was going to be a dead body in there. I don't know what I was thinking. So I walk up to the casket and I get up there and I look in there and it's Jeremy's dead dad. And I'm like, oh, fuck. He's really fucking dead. And I can still picture him lying there. I can picture what he's wearing. He's wearing a suit, wearing a little like fucking blue tie. I can picture his hair, brown, short, curly hair, cold, whitish face. I remember the whole fucking scene. I didn't really attach any emotion to it though. I was like, oh well, that's a dead body, whatever. So the funeral starts and I'm sitting towards the back of the funeral parlour with my teacher. And it's my first funeral as well. So it's kind of entertaining. It's pretty exciting. Anyway, a few people do their eulogies and then it's Jeremy's turn to do his eulogy. And he goes up to the front and goes behind the thing and he starts doing his eulogy and he starts crying and he starts pulling this face while he's crying. And for some reason, some inexplicable reason, to me, it was the funniest face I'd ever seen in my entire life. His crying face was so fucking funny that I started laughing. I'm not even joking. And he's crying and he's trying to get through his eulogy, but he can't. He's just crying too hard. And the harder he cries, the harder I'm laughing. And now, after about a minute or so, I'm like curled over, tears coming out of my eyes, laughing, red, shaking. I'm laughing so hard. I can barely breathe. My teacher is like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I am in hysterics. Like, I'm talking that uncontrollable laughter. I couldn't do anything about it. And the harder Jeremy cried, the harder I fucking laughed. For some reason, I don't know. So my teacher's trying to get me to stop. Laughing, and I just can't. I just can't stop laughing. So she gets me up, and she's like, get up, trying not to make a commotion, and she sort of drags me outside, and I just fucking fall to the ground, like in the fetal position, just laughing so hard. My eyes are like it was one of the hardest laughs I've ever had in my entire life. It was fucking insanity. So the funeral ends. Jeremy didn't see me laughing, I don't think. I don't think anyone but my teacher saw me laughing. So the funeral ends and I have to go back to school. I'm like, what the fuck? I thought I had the rest of the day off. Jeremy, can you speak to your mum? Can you speak to your mum and see if I can just fucking hang out with you for the rest of the day? He's like, what? I'm like, fucking, they're trying to make me go back to school, man. This is fucked. And then I go up to Jeremy's mum. I'm like, hey, can I just spend the day with you guys? They're like, what? What's going on? I'm like, they're making me go back to school. So I'm causing this big commotion at the fucking funeral because they're making me go back to school. Anyway, I fucking don't get to stay with them. The teacher drives me back to school and she's like, that was really fucked. What you did in there it wasn't good. I'm like, I don't know what happened. It was just so funny. Then when I got back to school, I fucking told everyone, I'm like, you should have seen it. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I think I was a little bit insane from the start. Like, I'm telling my friends and shit how funny it was. Like, I'm reenacting, like, the crying face. It wasn't good. I don't think I fully understood what was going on. But anyway, that's the story of the first dead body I ever saw. If you're enjoying the podcast, why don't you sign up to Patreon? It's £1 a month. The link to the Patreon is in my social media bios. Or you can just fucking message me directly and I'll send you the link. Anyway, that is it for tonight and I'll see ya the fuck later.